What would you do if the emergency you feared the most didn't get a response? Not because the roads were blocked, not because the storm was too strong, not because every ambulance was out saving someone else, but because the system built to answer your call has quietly collapsed. And no one thinks you should know. In some counties, they're threatening $10,000 a day fines because the delays have become impossible to ignore. And in other places, the ambulances are sitting right there, engines cold, bays full, but no crews, no paramedics, no one coming in time to make a difference. This isn't a future problem. This is right now, and we're going to expose it.
We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Let me show you what this collapse actually looks like.
Ambulance delays could cost AMR $10,000 a day in Multnomah County, if not more. The issue is, ambulances are arriving late to 911 calls, and in thousands of cases so far this year, dispatchers haven't had an available ambulance to send to an emergency.
But the truth isn't in the fines. It's here. More empty station footage.
To be clear, hello? 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 Just to be clear, there's no one here. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just trying to figure it out.
The ambulances are ready. The doors are open. The lights still work. But the crews, the paramedics, the people who breathe life into this system, they're gone. And a building full of untouched ambulances can't show compassion, can't offer care, not without the human beings who made it a lifeline. It's a tomb waiting for the help that isn't coming, at least not in time for when you need it.
All right, some real talk here. What is going on with ambulance response times in the city of Buffalo? Common Council member Mitch Nowakowski says some people in his district have been left hanging by AMR, which is that third-party ambulance service that the city of Buffalo contracts with. They've been hanging for more than an hour or have gotten no service at all, according to Nowakowski. But then there's this. AMR has been operating in the city of Buffalo without a contract since March 2021. Who let that happen? Now, Nowakowski wants answers and is demanding AMR step in front of the Common Council.
And it's not just here. In Buffalo, the story is the same. Failures blamed on shortages that never seem to get fixed. Different city, different crews, same collapse. You'll hear reports about penalties, threats, numbers on a page, but fines don't fix empty rooms. And in a twisted way, fines pad treasuries that are already in the red and fund anything except the crews who are gone. It doesn't change a thing. When the news broke in 2023, AMR had already failed the single standard that decides whether a heart keeps beating, reaching 90% of life-threatening calls within 8 minutes, and even after swelling its fleet and pushing improvements at every level, AMR is only approaching that benchmark, not meeting it, not when it matters, because even now, years later, they still haven't hit that standard, and the fines and the consequences continue to pile up. But that improvement came at a cost, the kind no headline ever admits. To fill the gaps, EMTs were pushed into the field after as little as 8 days of training. Paramedics with less than a year of experience were shoved into leadership roles they never felt ready for, not because they'd earned it, but because there was no one else left. And it's falling apart exactly how you think it would. More ambulance crashes, inexperienced partners who can't safely drive, can't assist on calls, and can't carry the weight of someone else's life in their hands. This isn't improvement. It is the slow, grinding collapse of a workforce stretched past its breaking point. And even with all of that, with every shortcut, every accelerated timeline, every desperate attempt to patch the holes, paramedics continue to leave 9 fewer on the roster, and turnover climbing to 22, 24%. A number that means nothing on paper, but means everything when you're the one dialing 911 and the trained responder you're hoping for walked away months ago. You cannot penalize your way out of a collapse when the very workforce you're threatening has already walked out the door. You can't punish ghosts, and right now, that's who's supposed to be saving you. This isn't one company or one county or one freak night that went wrong. This is a nationwide unraveling, the quiet hollowing of emergency services that once stood between life and loss. And now it leaves families waiting, staring at the door, listening for sirens that never come in time, only to arrive later to clean up whatever horror triggered the call in the first place. And sometimes facing the kind of fear no one should ever face alone. When you dial 911, you expect a voice, a promise, a lifeline. But across America, more and more families learn the same truth. The emergency you fear the most doesn't come with the help you were told would be there when you need it. And the emergency services that never arrive on time are becoming the new normal. The first failure isn't on the street. It isn't in the ambulance bay. It happens in the room no one ever thinks to picture, the dispatch center. The second you dial 911, the clock begins ticking on a life. But across America, that call doesn't go to help. It goes to a queue. It sits there, unanswered, unheard, because the voices who once sat behind those consoles have vanished from the system. This is a collapse with no footage, no crowds, no sirens, no spectacle. Just a phone in a house full of fear, waiting for a responder who isn't coming, not now and not in time. And now, in the middle of this collapse, agencies across the country are turning to artificial intelligence to replace the people we no longer have. They say AI will fix the dispatcher shortage, speed up response times, handle the calls humans don't have time to answer. But what could possibly go wrong when the last human lifeline we have is replaced with a machine that doesn't care if you live or die, and sometimes hallucinates the truth? We are handing our emergencies to systems that don't understand fear, can't feel urgency, and can't hear the shaking in your voice when you say the words, "I need help." Dispatch didn't collapse because it was too human. It collapsed because there weren't enough humans left to keep it alive, and replacing them with indifferent software doesn't fix the problem. It buries it. The second failure is the one you can see with your own eyes. The ambulance exists, the bays exist, but the people, the ones who used to run toward danger so you didn't have to, they're gone. And what's left behind isn't a safety net, it's a shell, a silent room full of machines with no one left to bring them to life. And then there's the failure no one ever records, the wait. In the UK and beyond, ambulance collapse is visible. The cameras are rolling, people begging for help, while the seconds bleed by.
Yeah, she basically says, "We're sending you out an emergency ambulance." So, yep, I'm waiting for an ambulance, and I think it's been about 50 minutes now that I'm waiting for this emergency ambulance. My leg is...
She's been waiting, and she's not alone.
They're in Canada. My mom and brother are in Canada, and I'm in the States. So my brother called for an ambulance at 8:30 in the morning. And do you know when it arrived? 4:30. 4:30 in the afternoon. My brother called at 8:30 in the morning for an ambulance. He kept calling and checking. They're like,
In Canada, a mother waited 8 hours. 8 agonizing hours for help that never came on time.
Is that the guy's 77 years of age. He had something cause him to fall. He hit his head and then waited over an hour for an ambulance to come. You know, and this is the Shankill, so I mean there's an ambulance station 5 minutes away on the Crumlin Road. There's a hospital 3 or 4 minutes away. The Royal is 10 minutes away. And he still had to wait over an hour for an ambulance. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is.
In Scotland, the ambulances were close. The station was right there, but no one came for over an hour. Everywhere you look, they wait for hours, and the world sees it. But in America, our collapse doesn't play out on camera. There are no queues of ambulances, no viral videos, no footage, because our failure happens behind closed doors, quiet, alone, where a family waits for help that never arrives in time, because the people who could have saved them aren't walking through that door. And the consequences, the losses that will come from this silence, they're only just beginning. We rarely ask the question what matters most during a collapse. Who benefits? Because in America, EMS isn't always a public service. In many places, it's a contract. One company, one system, one point of failure. And when that provider is short-staffed, the city waits. Even when local news reports $10,000 a day fines, it changes nothing. You cannot find your way out of collapse, not when the people who used to save you are already gone. When indifferent or unscrupulous bureaucrats brag that they're saving money, understand this: they're not saving you, they're enriching someone else, someone far from the fear you feel when you dial 911. And the question we should always ask is, who is that someone? Because it is never the families standing in their kitchens, paralyzed over a silent phone.
When I dialed 911, I heard an automatic system.
You have reached the City of Detroit 911 Emergency Center. All operators are handling emergency calls.
The next layer of collapse is the regulators, the ones far too many still believe will guard the gates, who are supposed to stop all of this before it ever reached a living room, a kitchen floor, or a phone shaking in someone's hand as they dial for help that should have already been guaranteed. EMS in the US isn't a machine that just needs a tune-up. It's a patchwork, fragmented, unregulated, and in far too many places, self-policed. The providers report their own failures, and the state, instead of protecting the public, accepts whatever numbers those same providers choose to hand over. A collapse hidden by paperwork. And if you think the answer is in a strong centralized system, look at the United Kingdom. National staffing, national oversight, national protocols. The kind of structure America doesn't even come close to having, and still, the system is collapsing in full view of the world. Ambulances waiting hours outside hospitals, crews frozen in queues, powerless to move, patients dying inches from safety because there's no one left inside to save them. If their so-called strong, regulated system can break in full view of the world, imagine what happens to ours, a system built on patchwork, understaffing, and prayers whispered into a phone where no one is there to answer. Systems fail on paper long before they fail on people. But for the families, this collapse is already here. It's the mother standing over her child, counting breaths like they're slipping through her fingers. It's the son calling 911 for his father again and again, hearing nothing but a recording as the seconds that decide life and death drain away. In rural America, one ambulance may cover 3 entire counties. And when that one unit is out, the next closest help can be 40 minutes away. And in the cities, the story isn't any better. ERs are full of paramedics trapped in hallways with patients who can't be handed off because there's no bed, no nurse, no space left to save them. The rural collapse leaves you waiting. The urban collapse traps you in the system with no way out. This collapse isn't filmed. No one thinks about recording when the person they love is fighting for their life on the kitchen floor. These aren't statistics. They're people. People who trusted bureaucrats with the most fragile moments of their lives and were left unprotected when it mattered most. And for the families who do get an ambulance, the collapse doesn't stop at their door. It follows them straight to the hospital. ERs across the country are turning patients away because there are no beds, no space, no hands left to save them.
Whoa, 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 check this out. Dozens of women, pregnant, some bleeding in labor, are being turned away from ERs despite federal law. Yes, if you're pregnant, you better know literally what the laws are in the state you live in, because your life could literally be at risk.
This year, the Associated Press documented something unthinkable. Dozens of pregnant women bleeding in labor, miscarrying, being turned away from emergency rooms even though federal law demands those hospitals help them. The law was there, the help wasn't. We were told the ER was the last line of defense, the final place where help would always be waiting. But the truth is far darker. The ER is collapsing, crushed by the exact same pressure that snapped 911 in half. The place that was supposed to save you is breaking too. We judge a society not by the promises it prints on paper, but by how fast it reaches you when a life hangs in the balance. And when both ends of the emergency system fail, when the call goes unanswered and the hospital sends you away, you finally see what no one wants to admit: dependency is control. Every American lives by a silent contract. If tragedy strikes, the people charged with saving us will come. But a contract like that is only as strong as the indifferent, or hopefully caring, bureaucrats who uphold it. And when those people leave, what's left behind is an empty, hollow shell, a building full of untouched ambulances and promises that once meant protection, but now mean nothing at all. A collapsing emergency system doesn't declare itself. It fails in silence. One unreturned 911 call, one ambulance bay full of untouched rigs, and no one left to drive them. One ER that sends you away because every room is already holding someone else's nightmare. A society that cannot answer its own emergencies cannot pretend it still has control. Flashing lights don't protect you, systems do. And when the systems fail, you're on your own.
We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it.